What's up, Strike Team, and welcome back to another episode of Strike Team Official. Today we're going to be looking at a video by Jesse Enkamp, the karate nerd, where he interviewed a knife fighting expert. And I think this video is so important because he gets into stuff that, not just knife fighting, but aspects of self-defense and self-protection that I think us as martial artists don't really talk about enough, but are like foundational to being well-rounded as a self-defense expert. And so this is something I'm really passionate about and something I think we should all take the time to look at if you haven't already seen it. So let's take a look at this video by Jesse Enkamp, the karate nerd.
And so a vast majority of people who survive knife attacks have absolutely no training whatsoever. Now, does training improve our odds of survivability? Yes. But it's what kind of training matters.
That's Paulo Rubio, the world-famous knife instructor. He's traveled the globe to document the greatest experts in combat.
This is brilliant.
Jesse, this is an ancient methodology.
Today, he's invited me to FMJ, a tactical facility usually reserved for special forces. Because it's time to learn the truth about knife defense.
I'm scanning the environment, I'm grooming, I'm indexing.
You're giving criminals a lot of good ideas right now.
Go! Up here, this was a real knife, and I wanted to kill you.
Okay, that's a crazy thing to say. But I want to point out that the knife instructor that he's using, I think it's Paulo Rubio, right? I recognize his face because he is someone that my Muay Thai instructor, Mason, he's my instructor up here in Sacramento. He loves this guy. He also trains with weapons, knives. He does HEMA with like broadswords and stuff. I actually started doing a little bit of that on the side with him for fun. And he loves this guy. So I know he's a very legit martial artist. I also know he is world famous for what he does. So as eccentric as that sounded, let's see what he has to say.
What's the truth about knife defense?
A knife thrust can happen as fast as 0.14 seconds. When you blink your eyes, it takes 0.10 to 0.40 seconds. For you to initiate a defensive action, it takes about half a second. And so the mathematics of knife defense is impossible. Even if you see it coming and you initiate a defense, the likelihood of you being successful at it is very low. Think about this. What percentage of the world's population do you think does martial arts?
Okay, let's just pause right there. That is a very interesting thing for someone who is a knife defense instructor to say. He is putting out right. Hey, by the way, the math of this is not realistic. It's impossible. That's a crazy concept, and something that us martial artists who train and drill for this stuff all the time is not something we want to hear. However, I do know he says that training can help with survivability, so I'm wondering what he exactly meant by that and how he's gonna, because I'm sure he has a way to get around that, right? How do you get around the fact that your reflexes are too slow? He must have a fix, because that's a crazy way to start off the video, but it's an interesting concept to really think about.
Less than 1%?
Less than 1%. What percent of knife attack survivors do you think have done any kind of
Zero.
martial arts training?
Very little.
It's not even in the, right? So a vast majority of people who survive knife attacks have absolutely no training in whatsoever. Luck has almost everything to do with it. Now, does training improve our odds of survivability? Yes. It's what kind of training matters. Let me paint you another picture. You watch football, you watch the Swedish football team.
Okay.
Yeah. So when that goalkeeper is standing on that line, do you think that goalkeeper is seeing that ball travel in midair, processing the spin trajectory, and then at the last moment making a dive?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. So how are they able to make saves? What information?
So it has to be some kind of prediction, right? It can't be a reaction.
Right.
So they look at the body language.
Body language.
Right?
Okay, body language.
And of course they're drawing from experience.
Drawing from experience.
Yeah.
Good.
And luck.
And a little bit of luck. All of those things. So it's the lead up. It's the moments before the kick. It's the last point of contact to the ball. So that's all knife defense is.
Okay, so I think what he's talking about is understanding the tells beforehand, right? Like if you're looking at a guy who's going to throw a punch at you, I don't look at the hand, I look at the shoulder, right? Because that gives me all the information I need. The shoulder and the hip tells me right here before the punch is even let go, where it's going and how I'm going to block it. So I think that's what he's saying is recognize things before it's actually coming at you, and that deals with the reflexes. I think that's where he's going with this.
It's a probability judgment based on the information that you can gather in a split second.
It's much less about the actual techniques than it is about the things preceding the technique.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, whenever I say something like this, it can be a little bit offensive because yes, technique matters, right? But so does strength.
Yeah.
So does speed, and those things I can't control.
Right.
If you're a big, strong linebacker and I'm a 62-year-old woman, it doesn't matter how much detailed technique and instruction that I've received.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good that technique is. I'm not going to be able to pull it off against you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a probability judgment based on the information that you can gather in a split second.
It's much less about the actual techniques than it is about the things preceding the technique.
Exactly. Now, the
telegraph.
thing is, whenever I say something like this, it can be a little bit offensive because yes, technique matters, right? But so does strength.
Yeah.
So does speed, and those things I can't control.
Right.
If you're a big, strong linebacker and I'm a 62-year-old woman, it doesn't matter how much detailed technique and instruction that I've received.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good that technique is. I'm not going to be able to pull it off against you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Yo, that's also a deep thing that is something he's saying a lot of martial artists don't want to admit. Size, athleticism, power matters, right? I recently saw a video of a black belt woman in jiu-jitsu working with a power lifter who's a professional. I don't remember if it was a power lifter or a bodybuilder. But they were in a grappling position, and she had great technique. Her weight was down and everything, but he just picked her up. Right? And at the end of the day, I know no matter how good I get at jiu-jitsu, there's a decent chance Thor, who, if you don't know, not the Marvel character, but Thor is one of the strongest powerlifters, or strength athletes in the world. I might have this man in the armbar. He might be able to curl my entire arm and body weight like that, and there'd be nothing I can do. His arm might outpower my legs. Okay? Like, certain people are just that strong. So it's important to recognize that power and athleticism are factors of fighting. I think a lot of us martial artists, especially traditional martial artists, like to pretend doesn't exist half the time. Because it helps with that movie magic of my skill will beat all things, which just isn't true in real life. Trust me, I know I'm not that big. And I spar big guys all the time. And I can beat them. But the amount of training a big guy needs to be able to take me is significantly less. The skill to athleticism metric is not a straight line, it's curved, right? The more athletic they are, the drastically the higher amount of skill I need to keep up with them, or taller or bigger or whatever it is.
a successful goalkeeper, how many times must they save the ball out of 10 penalty shots for them to be considered a really good goalkeeper?
Oh, I'm not a huge football or soccer fan.
In baseball,
Yeah.
if you have a .3 batting average, if you hit 3 times out of 10, you're getting paid a lot of money.
Really?
You're considered successful.
Okay.
So in knife defense,
Yeah.
whenever I see people successfully defend in a demo 100% of the times, I begin to think that's an unrealistic expectation.
Should you expect to get cut?
I hear this all the time, right?
Yeah.
In a knife fight, you will get cut.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah. So I think that's a defeatist mentality.
Yeah.
Right? And if we study CCTV videos, you certainly see that people get cut, but you also see people not getting cut.
Yeah.
It's like, but if I say, hey, look, if you're going to get in a boxing match, expect to get punched.
Yeah.
Fine.
All right.
So this makes a lot of sense. I think what he's talking about, that the idea of like expect to get punched, expect to get hit, is kind of based around the old philosophies we hear from like Buddha about like going to battle, prepare to die, like accept death, right? And I think what's really important, what these philosophies are meant to teach us, is that when you accept the outcome of the fight before you go into the fight, it actually creates a level of calmness and peace and serenity when you go in, which actually makes it more likely that you'll survive. When I go into the ring and I'm fighting, when I go in and I'm nervous and I don't want to get hurt and I'm trying to avoid getting hit, I am more likely to get hit. I'm more likely to freeze. I'm more likely to not be fluid. But when I go into the ring and I've accepted, okay, I'm going to get punched in the face, we're going to get hurt, but we're going to do the best we can. You know, you just flow through it. all of a sudden it's easier for my body to go into a state of flow, a state of calm, to respond properly, and I actually get hurt a lot less, right? So that whole thought process of being prepared for all the negative outcomes actually allows your body to flow properly and actually apply techniques the way you're supposed to in training. That's the philosophy behind what he's saying right now.
Right? that makes sense.
Probably.
And I think the reason people say you will get cut or expect to get cut is that they don't want you to be shocked by it, and that the philosophy is to continue fighting. Yeah.
What are some of those things we could be looking out for if we are about to get attacked?
100%. So this is important. These are called pre-attack indicators, and they're more or less universal.
Yeah.
All right. So one of those things is called indexing. So if we're having an argument right here, and you see me doing this, right? Yeah. You're
searching.
Well, it's not that you're searching. You know where that concealed weapon is, right? You can get that weapon out very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But why am I touching it? Why is this a pre-attack indicator? Why is this a sign, Jesse, that you're about to get stabbed?
Because there's some kind of comfort in feeling your weapon?
Right. So look, if you've ever proposed to a lovely woman who you wanted to be your wife.
Oh, it's anxiety.
You had that ring in your pocket all day long. What were you doing all day long?
Checking.
Why? Why?
Touching.
You want to know that it's there.
The tells.
Another pre-attack indicator.
Yeah, okay.
It's called scanning the environment. So what am I doing when I'm scanning the environment?
Making sure you can attack me.
Making sure I can attack you. Maybe I'm looking for cameras.
Right.
Maybe I'm waiting for my friends to arrive. Maybe as soon as I stab you, I'm looking for an exit point.
Okay, so this is another really important one. He's covering a bunch of gold right now. So another one, if you guys don't know, I used to work for a self-defense company for about 2 years. I would go out and I would teach everything from de-escalation, self-defense awareness, from everyone to high schoolers to like police officers, right? So to girls who are victims of violent crime, to corporations, I did it with everybody. And one of the main things we would talk about is understanding how to recognize when violence is going to happen before it actually happens. We like to say that 80% of self-defense has nothing to do with fighting. If you can be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what the other person's doing, and know how to shut things down either verbally or just by leaving the situation, that's the majority of self-defense right there. And what he's talking about in this video, the importance of understanding body language, is huge. I remember one of the few street fights I've been in, I knew the guy was going to throw the punch way before he did, because technically his back was turned to me. But I saw him cock. And when he spun and threw, I was like, I saw that coming 5 years ago. Like, it was so obvious because I'm paying attention to the pre-fight indicators. And I think that's what he's talking about here, is like recognizing when that person's making space and getting into position and doing the body language of aggression. Like, that makes a lot of sense here. I like this. This is a great video.
Criminals, a lot of good ideas right now.
Well, see, the thing is, these happen subconsciously. This is not a thing that you can necessarily control. You know what I mean? Like this.
Right.
See this? What is this?
Yeah.
Grooming.
Oh man, I'm already feeling it.
Yeah.
You're about to attack me.
Oh boy. And that's another thing I talk about.
Yeah.
You can infuse emotional gravity
Yeah.
into a training environment.
Yeah.
Right? So,
but it's so weird that I also feel a kind of threat from you just because you start grooming yourself. Maybe even the viewers can feel it when they see that. Yeah.
That's your
That's
intuition.
Weird. Yeah.
That's your intuition.
That's the DNA. Yeah.
You ever walk into a place, Jesse, and you're like, this is a bad...
Many times.
Right.
That's why I've never been in a real fight.
Right.
Because I always avoid that.
So you trust your intuition.
Yes.
What is intuition? Intuition is subconscious pattern recognition. So you're not logically saying, I see him, and it's just a gut feeling. So you trust your intuition. So back to these pre-attack indicators, right? So I'm scanning the environment, I'm grooming, I'm indexing, and then one last thing, there are many. Okay, we're talking, and then I do this.
Hey, yeah, blading.
I blade my body.
Like this.
First we're talking.
Yeah, you're open.
And then I'm like, bro.
Oh, you're loading up that.
Boom. Most people are what? Left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Most.
Yes.
So the power is on the right side.
Yeah. Universal sign for a haymaker right there, baby.
Adding bits of information to make a good probability judgment.
Yes.
So now we're having an argument. I'm indexing what could be a concealed weapon. I'm grooming, I'm scanning the environment. I blade.
I know something's about to go down right now.
Something's about to go down.
So should I try to get away, or should I strike you before you strike me?
That's the $1 million question, right? And there is no right answer because you have to make the probability judgment.
Yes.
You have to be the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
So it's based on the...
That is another prime... Like, that's a tough question. Do you hit first? Do you strike preemptively? One of the other really important factors of self-defense that we don't talk about enough is the legality of self-defense. You know, and a lot of people will say, I'd rather be, what's the phrase? I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6 or something like that, right? You know, I'd rather be alive and have to go to jail or have to go to court than not be alive, which I understand. But like the reality is, I'd rather be alive and also not go to jail, right? So you want to understand what the legalities of your area are when it comes to self-defense. When are you allowed to punch first? I know legally where I am technically allowed to strike first if I feel threatened. But then I'm going to have to explain that that was reasonable in court to the average person. And I also know that because of what state I live in, they're not the best when it comes to self-defense laws compared to some other areas in my country. And that's going to differ based on where you live, maybe even, you know, the attorney general and like the specific cities that you're in or counties that you're in. And it's going to differ by country, right? So that's something I can't really talk about too heavily on the YouTube video. But it is important that you understand what your legal ramifications are of when you're allowed to strike first. Because it is my opinion that if you know a fight's going to happen and you know it's something that's going to really threaten your life, hit first. Drop them before they can drop you. I mean, that's just protecting yourself smartly. But then again, you have to be able to explain that and make sure you're not overreacting at the same time. So that's a very, very complicated thing that should be discussed more. Honestly, I think this is a good chance. I should reach out to my old boss from the self-defense company and see if I can interview him and get him on here to talk about this kind of stuff. Because he's an expert. I was working under him, you know. And so I would love to have him kind of come on here and talk about it. All right, let's continue.
So it's based on the totality of circumstance.
Yeah.
And look, you're a karate guy.
Yeah.
Right? You have a good solid base.
Yeah.
Can you execute a good side kick from this position?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you do it when there's ice on the ground?
Ice, I would probably go lower.
Right. But another thing we can't control are the infinite variables of weather, ground surface condition, your emotional state. Maybe you just had an argument with somebody and you're just not thinking straight. Maybe you didn't sleep well last night.
Or didn't have my coffee.
And you didn't have your coffee.
Yeah.
So look at all of these factors, infinite variables. If I'm not exhibiting any of these signs and I just stab you, the math is way behind.
Oh yeah.
But now that you've recognized pre-attack indicators, you also know trajectories. Step back for a second.
Yeah.
If I swing this way, what's coming next?
Probably
this.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where training can kind of have a place.
Yes.
But in real life, you have to be able to make good, solid decisions under stress, and you have to be able to constantly be assessing the situation to give yourself the most amount of information to be able to make a good probability judgment. But even then, you could be wrong.
Sure.
Just like that soccer player.
Right, and jump the wrong direction.
Yeah.
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 Unfortunately, you only get to be wrong once.
You have to be wrong once. Can I try something with you real quick?
Ain't that the
Okay.
truth?
So I'm just going to have you stand here. I'm going to give you instructions, okay? I'm going to stab you with a low line thrust, one of the most common attacks. And I just want you to initiate some kind of a defensive action. I'm not going to go fast. It's just going to be this way. Okay. Why did you choose that?
Because this is what I've been trained to do.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We're going to do it again, just one more time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything different. Same low line attack. Okay? All right. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Great job. Did you feel that there was a difference between the first and the second?
Yes.
What was
The
it?
first was more static, more like a training environment. The second felt more real.
What does that mean, felt more real? This is not a realistic attack.
No, it was still slow, but you added more of the kind of body language I would expect from a real fight.
Yeah, and you know what else? Up here, this was a real knife, and I wanted to kill you. And you felt that.
Yes.
And you responded to that. Our minds, our bodies, our spirit, if you will, are incredible machines that are so fine-tuned to dealing and identifying danger. If we can just be aware of those things. And sometimes it requires a moment like this to go, I can manufacture it. Yeah. We're still in a training environment. Also, we have to give each other hugs and high fives afterwards. So you know why this is important to laugh in a training environment?
Yeah.
You know why that's really important?
Tell me.
Because parts of our brains can't differentiate between a real event and one that's powerfully imagined.
Yeah.
So there was a moment there where I was like, I really wanted to kill the karate nerd, Jesse Enkamp, right? And so we have to overwrite that.
I see.
We have to.
Makes sense.
All right, this is also, man, he's dropping, this is one of the best videos on martial arts I've seen in a long time, because he's dropping nuggets that people just don't talk about. The importance of bringing in the realism of the kind of physical presence that an actual real-life altercation puts on somebody. This is something that if you're training in a lot of simulated environments, we just don't cover enough. One thing I like about the sporting environment is that the closest thing I felt to that real fear is walking up into a ring preparing for a real fight. You know, that simulates that real fear of a real fight as close as anything else. Sometimes it's even worse because it's like hours of it instead of just, you know, kind of being a short time span. But like simulating that reality of that real pressure is so important and something that I think is missing, especially from those who don't have a chance to feel those real nerves. You know, getting that feeling is really, really important. And also when it comes to understanding, you know, is this person going to attack me or is he just aggressively talking, how to respond to people, when to know when to like throw that real, you know, preemptive strike. This is probably all training that will really help with stuff like that. So this is something that if you don't already, if you focus on not just sport but self-defense, this is something that definitely needs to be tossed into training in some way, shape, or form.
By the way,
this is such a good video.
Wrestlers, jiu-jitsu people, and anything with a solid striking background like boxing, Muay Thai, karate, all of those are amazing for self-defense.
Yeah.
You could probably sidekick me and I wouldn't even get my knife out. Okay. But it's based on your recognition prime decision making. It's based on the things that happen beforehand that you're able to deploy your tools.
So what happens after that initial threat assessment?
Yeah.
And let's say somebody does attack us. What should we do?
Which do you think is better? An instinctive response or a trained response?
Probably a combination of both.
That's kind of the right answer.
Oh yeah?
The next question would be, how do you know that your trained response has become instinctive?
When you don't have to think about it.
Okay, and what protocols do you have to ensure that?
Training.
Yeah, right?
Practice.
Right,
yeah.
But trying to recreate real moments, right? So I have you want to do a quick drill?
Yeah, let's
with
do it.
me?
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get you to reverse blink.
Wait, what?
Yeah, what's reverse blinking? So can you blink for 0.10 seconds?
Okay.
You see that? Yeah, you blink.
Okay, I'm blinking.
Oh, you're so good. You're doing this.
I'm a black belt in
You're a
blinking.
master. Okay, but what we're going to do, is you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to be, don't do it yet, I'm demonstrating for you. You're going to be in complete darkness. And when I say go, you're going to open, you're going to reverse blink your eye for 0.10 second. Boom.
Oh, okay.
And you're going to gather information in that quick
Interesting.
time. All right? So what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to hold up fingers.
Numbers.
And you just tell me what you see, okay? So
I close my eyes.
And remember, when I say go and only go, you open it for 0.10 seconds, close them up again. Ready?
Yep.
Go.
So I saw 2 fingers.
Yeah, but y'all.
I just tried to do the darn drill, and when I opened my eyes, the camera was focused on Jesse. I'm trying to take part in the video, and it was just not. It was not being helpful. That's funny.
Also open your eyes way longer.
Really?
Yeah, that was way. You went
that's
like
what
this. You went like this. Right?
But that's what I felt I needed to register those two fingers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're trying to beat the drill instead of trying to extract what we could be learning from it, which is how much information can I receive in a short amount of time. You don't need to be right all the time. You need to be honest with this drill.
Yeah.
So watch me. Literally that. Now, here's the next evolution of the drill. When you open your eyes, a knife will be placed somewhere near you in a static way.
Okay.
Here's what you need to do. Open, close, and then slap it.
Slap the arm?
Just slap whatever you can slap. Only when I say go. Go!
Sorry, I looked and then I...
That is nice. That is nice. The thought process of closing your eyes, having to quickly open your eyes, get information from your surroundings, and respond. This is the kind of training for real-life situations that a lot of sports athletes and even traditional martial artists do not put like any time into. This is, if you're in the street, most likely the attack coming, like obviously there could be pre-attack indicators, but likely a chance that someone's going to try and sucker punch you or hit you when you're not ready for it. So, you're not going into a ring where you put your hands up and the ref goes go. You're not prepared like that. And so this is a great way to test your reflexes for sudden attacks when you're not in guard, when your hands are by your side, when you're not ready, and really test yourself on that level. I really, really like a technique like this. I've done a little bit of this in my personal training at my karate class. We've done something somewhat similar, but not exactly like this, and I like this a lot. This is something I'm going to try and bring into my class, and hopefully something that my class will start doing, because I really like the idea behind training your reflexes in this way. This is good.
Yeah. It was like an instinct. When I saw it, I just wanted to...
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get you to understand here is that your brain can process information very, very quickly.
Yes, because I'm not even thinking.
You're not even
It's just instinct.
Right.
Yeah.
And what did you feel when your eyes were closed?
Some kind of tension.
It's intense.
Yeah.
So look, I'm able to manufacture a drill with very little contact that recreates or manufactures real conditions out there.
This is brilliant. I don't think most people practice these kinds of things when they think about knife defense.
I've done a lot of traveling and research, and I take from as many sources as I can, and I've synthesized information into repeatable drills. This is one of those drills. It has evolutions to it, and people really come away with experiences. But how do you get experience? Have you ever been stabbed in real life before?
Nope.
I've never been stabbed in real life either. So the challenge is, how can we create meaningful experiences for our students that they can draw upon, other than getting some real knives and stabbing? Can I try another drill with you?
Okay.
So this is part of the ecological dynamics of teaching. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to make you look like you've been training Filipino martial arts for 30 years.
Okay. Let's go.
You ready for this?
All right.
Okay, so this is based on objective pairing. All you need to do is follow my rules, follow the rules of the game, and we're going to do this, okay? So my first objective is to provide an initial strike. You are great at following instructions.
Thank you.
Your first objective is to provide an initial stop. Okay? Objective, initial strike, initial stop. Initial strike, initial stop, initial strike, initial stop. Perfect.
Okay.
I can even do something silly. Perfect, beautiful.
Okay. So far, so good.
So far, so good. After your initial stop, I want you to move it somewhere else.
Okay.
Good. Got it?
Yep.
Initial strike, initial stop, move it somewhere else with your other hand. Initial strike, initial stop, move it somewhere else with the other hand. My next objective is to counter your redirection. Here we go. Initial strike.
Okay, Jesse?
Wait! Wow!
The boy looks good. However, we do got to recognize he's a lifelong martial artist who may have done something like this before and has a great understanding of his body mechanics. However, he looked really good right there. And I I like this kind of drill where it's more free-flowing. It's not an exact movement. It's not like I throw these 2 punches and you block these exact ways. It's more like flowing and kind of responding to what comes. I think that teaches you faster and more realistically to a real fight. This is actually something I do a lot in my Muay Thai classes, and something that I personally would like to do more in even like, well, I do it a little bit in my traditional karate classes, and something I think we should do a lot more of. Because I think it's a better way to learn. It's fun. It's like a game. And I'm if you don't know this, I'm a teacher in my day job. I teach everywhere from kindergarten to high school. I'm a substitute teacher right now. I used to be a first grade teacher. And one of the things that is very well known among those who teach is that students learn better from games than almost anything else. Gamifying a lesson is one of the best ways for the student to actually have it ingrained in their memory. And gamifying these applications for self-defense and for fighting is a great way to get it, registered and stuck in your brain deeply. I like this a lot.
Wow.
If we did that,
It felt a little bit stiff.
it did.
Yeah.
It's good.
But that was challenging.
That was 30 seconds. If I had 15 minutes with you, bro, you could make
Wow.
you could do a FMA by Jesse channel, and people would be completely fooled. So now, using this same format, how do I make this relevant for knife defense? Okay. I'm gonna change the rules. Initial strike, initial stop.
Yeah.
From here, go get a 2-on-1 control.
A 2-on-1 control.
Any 2-on-1.
Like that.
That's 2-on-1.
Yeah.
What's another 2-on-1 control? Maybe a Russian tie.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
Maybe an inside 2-on-1 control.
Would that be too? Okay. Oh, yeah, like an arm drag.
Something like that.
Ah,
okay?
okay.
So initial strike, initial stop,
Yeah.
2-on-1 control.
Yes.
Good. From here, my job is to conduct a knife switch. I'm gonna switch it to the other hand.
I stop. I do a control.
Now look, this is a terrible position for me. We can use this
Yeah.
to work your 2-on-1 control.
Right,
How
right.
good is your 2-on-1 control?
Yeah.
Well, because we are in a dynamic drill, we're collaborative, you help me get a little bit, now I got my knife switch.
Ooh.
Now we loop, initial strike, initial stop, 2-on-1 control, go.
Okay, I try something different.
Try it. Yeah. Whoop.
Oh, my back is
No,
exposed.
but look, this
I'm
can
done.
happen.
Yeah.
Right? If I said, okay, Jesse, first let's get into this position.
Yeah.
Then let's get into this position.
Yeah.
It would take us forever.
Yeah.
But this process allows us to explore the totality, that vastness,
Yeah.
by just following these
It
simple
feels very alive, very practical.
and right away. Now, I want you to pin.
I love that as well. Using a gamified, alive drill to learn multiple things at once in a much faster manner than like the super structure you get in like karates and kung fu's, right? I love it. I actually started working, switching the knife from one hand to another from a live sparring I was doing. And we were sparring around with the knife, and my instructor's a lot bigger than me. He pinned my body to the wall, and I do a knife switch and move, including that around the back knife switch. And just come down, stab him in the back. And it gives you an understanding of what could really happen and an understanding of aliveness. And again, he makes a solid point about when you break things down too much into like these forms, it takes forever to learn. He probably learned 5-6 different movements just in this drill in a really quick period of time that he can now actually apply. This is very high level coaching, and it's something that needs to be learned from me, from everybody. I love it.
Pin the knife to me.
Pin the knife to you.
To me.
Okay.
Good. I have to resolve this now. Initial strike, initial stop, pin. Go, 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 pin. Initial strike, initial stop, pin. Oh, good one. Now check this out. Same rules. Now you can pin it to me or the ground. This is gonna be why are we in this position? This is not a standard jiu-jitsu position, but this is how we might fall.
Wow. It felt like I was in like an action movie. It was like a movie.
Yeah. So this is how I get people with no jiu-jitsu training to learn knife defense on the ground.
And it's a good workout.
It's a good workout. But 2 black belts doing the same drill, or 2 big guys doing the same drill under the same rules, different dynamic, right? So objective pairing could be any 2 objectives, any 3 objectives. And we pair these objectives to work on specific skill sets or to address specific deficiencies.
Kind of like you're creating small games. Yeah.
You're creating games.
Almost like I know what I'm talking about. Creating games. Exactly.
And then you're learning by doing rather than just theorizing.
Yeah. And also, like something like a 2-on-1 control, for example.
Yeah, okay, oh, you're right.
Right? Yeah. It's going to have different points of failure depending on who you are and who I am.
Yes.
That point of failure could be strength.
Right, exactly.
That point of failure could be technique. That point of failure could be skill deficiency.
Yeah.
So it's more important for you to find out where your point of failure is than to learn the proper technique, correct?
Yeah, because the same technique is not going to work on every individual.
Jesse, this is an ancient method.
That's super real. Okay, finding your own point of failure and not just the perfect technique. A lot of traditional styles, we focus very much on the exact perfect technique and the structure and position of the arm and the fist and all this other kind of stuff, right? And the entire class will focus on this one particular thing for a long period of time, not knowing if that is an area where you're weak at, right? When you look at combat sports, though, in particular, they are very focused on finding what your point of failure is within drills and working specifically for that person so they can overcome that point of failure. And certain things that may work for one person won't work for another person, and finding out what those things are. That is what increases your speed of application. The fact that a lot of people can do a combat sport and get good so much faster than you can in a traditional art, and I think it's because they're focusing so much more on finding personalized points of failure and fixing those personalized points of failure, and not just blatant idea of picture perfect theory technique. It's about, can I do it, and if I can't, how do I fix that specifically, not just a theory based kind of thing. And I love how he structured his drills around finding those things, and that's definitely something that needs to be brought more into all martial arts, not just combat sports, so we can all kind of have that ability to grow and find our points of failures faster and put us, make us more practical. If you're looking for practicality, this is an absolute must.
Methodology. It's called ecological dynamics. There are all these fancy terms for it.
Really?
Back in the old day, if you wanted to learn karate, wouldn't your master just start punching you?
Right, yeah, like the old movies.
Like the old movies.
Yeah.
I learned how to swim when my grandfather threw me in the river.
I learned the same thing.
Right?
It was my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
These are ancient methodologies.
Yeah.
Okay, one more pause. That's interesting, because he said the karate guy wouldn't just start punching you and learning how to swim. I don't agree that the ancient karate masters would just start punching you. They'd probably make you sweep the floor for 3 weeks until they decided you were worthy, and then make you do 1 kata for 5 years. That's the old karate masters in the legends, right? But what that does remind me of is when I was living in Japan, the way kickboxing was taught was very much throwing you into the deep end of a pool. You'd come in, and your first 2-3 days, they teach you jab, cross, uppercut, hook, 3 different kicks. They might even throw a spinning back kick in there, and you just started, and you're like, what are you doing, right? Why are you teaching this advanced stuff so early? And then they have you spar right away. Sometimes they're throwing people in there to spar, and they learned how to block, like, 5 minutes before, and they're already trying to spar with it. They throw you in the deep end, and it's sink or swim. Now, again, this might just be my experience, but that's what it was like where I was at. And, it is really trained and learned by doing. And some of these kids, especially when they start really young, they learn phenomenally quickly because they have so little fear. And and they grow really fast. So that is a way in which to do it. I personally think the best way to do it is like a mix of both, right? Is to have strategy, have technique, but then also have a lot of application. But that's just an interesting point he brought up that I want to touch on.
That are just kind of beginning to blossom in professional combat sports and professional athletics. There isn't a lot of it in knife work because we've become accustomed to structure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this linear pedagogy where before you learn a down block, you must learn the rising block.
Yes.
Before you learn a back fist, you must perfect a straight punch.
Yeah.
And so that's a long path. And it's a meaningful and rewarding path.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be tasked with teaching a law enforcement group and I have 2 days with them,
Yeah.
I can't say, this is day 1 out of 10 years.
Let's start with stances.
Right. So it's just taking these ancient methodologies, understanding modern application, blending it with a little bit of an understanding of behavioral psychology, putting it all together, and then codifying and synthesizing a 6-7 hour seminar to give people enough of an experience that hopefully, there are no guarantees, hopefully makes them safer.
But I think this made me a lot safer and all the viewers. So thank you so much for this master class. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that video was dope. I loved it. That video was dope. Broke down a lot of really important factors around self-defense and also training methodologies and how to bring in aliveness and faster learning into training of your martial arts. I loved every bit of that video. I think it's a bunch of stuff that needs to be talked about more and studied more. I'm going to take the thought process around a lot of his drills and try to bring them into my own practice. Absolutely loved it. And again, I agree with everything this man said. It was high level stuff right here. This is one of the best videos on practical self-defense and training methodologies and knife training that I've seen in a really long time. So, absolutely great video. If you guys enjoyed this, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We do things like this. We do reaction videos. We do history videos. We do practical applications of martial arts. And you know, the channel's growing. Pretty much everything martial arts under the sun we might touch. Even though we know my specialty personally is karate. But I also, you guys, I compete in Muay Thai and stuff too. So, who knows? Maybe I'll touch some of that as well. But yeah, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Remember, subscribe, notification bell. You can also find me on Instagram as Leo the Striker with a Y. That's my personal one. Or Strike Team Official with a Y as well. Right? We also have Full Contact Kata on Instagram, which just goes over my Banka applications. I have a lot of social media. But yeah, guys, see you next time. Peace.